The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was the largest structure ever built by any species in known space. It floated in the center of neutral territory, far from any star system, surrounded by the endless darkness of the void. The hall could hold 10,000 delegates from across 500 different worlds. Its walls were made of crystal that had taken 300 years to grow. Its floors were polished stone brought from the oldest planet in the galaxy. Everything about the council hall was designed to make visitors feel small. It was designed to remind everyone who entered that they were nothing compared to the power of the United Galaxy. I sat in his chair at the center of the raised platform. His gray skin reflected the soft blue lights that hung above him. His 4 eyes moved slowly across the chamber, watching the other take their seats. Was old, even by the standards of his long-lived species. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had watched wars begin and end. He had survived the great collapse that had killed billions. Nothing surprised him anymore. Nothing scared him anymore. Or so he thought. The session today was a simple matter. A young species called humans had been detected moving ships through restricted space. The border regions near the outer rim were carefully protected. No species was allowed to bring military vessels through those areas without permission. The humans had done so 3 times in the past month. This was a clear violation of galactic law. Had dealt with young species before. They were always the same. They grew too fast, became too confident, and needed to be reminded of their place. A show of force usually worked. If not, economic pressure would bring them in line. And if that failed, well, the council had other methods. The humans had only been part of galactic society for 40 years. They had been discovered by accident when a trading ship crashed on their 3rd planet. At first, the council had not been interested in them. They were primitive. They had only just begun to explore their own solar system. Their technology was laughably simple. Their ships were slow. Their weapons were weak. They were not worth attention. But humans were strange. They learned fast, too fast. In just 40 years, they had gone from barely reaching their own moon to building ships that could cross star systems. They had reverse-engineered technology that had taken other species thousands of years to develop. They asked questions that made scientists uncomfortable. They found solutions that should have been impossible. Still, they were young, they were small. They had only one home world and a handful of colonies. The council was not worried about them. Today's meeting was simply a reminder, a warning. Behave or face consequences. Bring in the human representative, said. His voice echoed through the hall. The massive doors at the far end of the chamber began to open. They moved slowly, as they were designed to do. The long walk from those doors to the speaking platform took several minutes. This was intentional. It gave visitors time to feel the weight of the hall. It gave them time to see the thousands of eyes watching them. It gave them time to become afraid. 2 figures entered the chamber. The first was a human female. She was small by council standards, barely reaching the chest of most species present. Her skin was a warm brown color. Her hair was black and cut short. She wore a simple uniform of dark blue with gold markings on the shoulders. Her name, according to the records, was Admiral. She was the highest-ranking military officer in the human fleet. The second figure was also human, another female, younger than the first. She had lighter skin and long black hair tied behind her head. Her uniform was similar but with different markings. This was Ambassador, the diplomatic representative of Earth. Watch them walk. He noticed something immediately. They did not look afraid. They did not look nervous. They walked with straight backs and steady steps. Their eyes did not dart around the chamber in wonder or fear. They looked forward directly at him as if he were the one who should be worried. This annoyed. Young species should know their place. The 2 humans reached the speaking platform and stopped. They did not bow. They did not lower their eyes. Admiral simply looked up at and waited. You stand before the Galactic Council, began. His voice was cold. You have been summoned to answer for violations of galactic law. Your ships have entered restricted space without permission. This is a serious offense. How do you respond?" Admiral did not answer immediately. She looked around the chamber slowly, as if counting the delegates present. Then she looked back at. "We respond with respect," she said. Her voice was calm and clear, but also with confusion. "The space you call restricted was not marked on any charts provided to us. We did not know we were violating any laws." "Ignorance is not an excuse," another spoke. This was Meth, a tall being with 6 arms and scales covering his body. "All species are expected to learn the laws before they travel." "We have learned many laws," Ambassador said, "but the maps we were given were incomplete. Perhaps this was an oversight. Perhaps it was intentional. Either way, we apologize for any concern we have caused." Leaned forward slightly. "Apologies are not enough. You must pay a fine. You must surrender the ships that violated our space, and you must submit to inspection of your remaining fleet." There was a moment of silence. Admiral smiled. It was a small smile, barely visible, but saw it. He did not like it. "I am afraid that will not be possible," the Admiral said. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Delegates whispered to each other. This was not how young species responded. They were supposed to agree. They were supposed to be grateful for such light punishment. "You refuse?" asked. His voice grew harder. "We do not refuse," Admiral said. "We simply cannot comply. Our ships are needed elsewhere. Our fleet cannot be inspected because it is spread across our territories protecting our people. And we do not have the resources to pay your fine. We are, as you have often reminded us, a young and poor species." "Then you will face consequences," Meth said. "The Council does not tolerate defiance." "We are not being defiant," Ambassador said quickly. "We are being honest. We wish to resolve this peacefully. Perhaps we can discuss alternative arrangements." Raised one of his 4 hands. The chamber fell silent. "There will be no alternative arrangements," he said. "You will comply or you will suffer. This is not a negotiation. This is a judgment." Admiral nodded slowly. "I understand. Then I must inform you of something." "What is that?" "We did not come alone." The chamber went quiet, felt something strange. It took him a moment to recognize the feeling. It was the first cold touch of uncertainty. "Explain yourself," he demanded. "When the summons arrived," Admiral said, "we knew this meeting might be difficult. We knew we might face unfair treatment, so we brought protection." "You brought ships into Council space." Meth stood up. "This is a greater violation than before. Council space is neutral. No military vessels are allowed." "We read your laws very carefully," Ambassador said. "The law states that no military vessel under 1,000 meters in length may enter Council space without permission. Our escort vessel is significantly larger than that. The law does not mention vessels above that size." Felt the uncertainty grow stronger. "What vessel?" Our sensors detected nothing. Admiral turned to Ambassador. They exchanged a look. Then the Admiral raised her hand to her ear, touching a small device there. "Captain Ho," she said, "please make our presence known." For a moment, nothing happened. Then the lights in the chamber flickered. Delegates looked up in confusion. The Council Hall had never experienced power problems. Its systems were the most advanced in the galaxy. Its reactors could run for 10,000 years without maintenance. The lights flickered again. Then the crystal walls began to vibrate. A low sound filled the chamber, something deep and powerful that could feel in his bones. It was the sound of something massive moving through space. "What is happening?" a delegate shouted. "Sensors," Meth called out. "Report." A holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed the space around the Council Hall. At first, it showed nothing unusual, just the darkness of the void, just the distant stars. Then something began to block out those stars. A shadow fell across the display. It grew larger and larger and larger. The shape that emerged from the darkness was so vast that the display could not show all of it at once. The image had to zoom out, and out, and out again. Stood from his chair. He could not help himself. He had to stand because he could not believe what he was seeing. The ship that appeared on the display was not like anything the Council had ever seen. It was not a ship in any normal sense. It was a moving fortress. It was a flying city. It was a weapon so large that it made everything else look like toys. Numbers appeared on the display as the sensors tried to measure what they were seeing. Length, 12 kilometers. Width, 4 kilometers. Height, 3 kilometers. Mass, beyond calculation. Power output, beyond measurement. "What is that thing?" someone whispered. Admiral turned back to face. Her smile was gone now. Her face was serious. "That," she said, "is the Eternal Dawn. It is a Titan-class warship of the United Earth Fleet. It is commanded by Captain Ho, and it is my escort." The chamber erupted into chaos. Delegates screamed. Some ran for the doors. Others simply stood frozen, staring at the display as the massive ship continued to move into position. Could not move. He could not speak. He could only watch as the shadow of the human warship fell across the council hall, blocking out the light of distant stars, filling the void with its impossible presence. He had thought nothing could scare him anymore. He had been wrong. The Eternal Dawn continued to emerge from the darkness like a giant waking from sleep. Every second revealed more of its impossible size. The council hall, which had always seemed so large, now looked like a grain of sand floating next to a mountain. Captain Ho stood on the command bridge of his ship. He was a tall man with broad shoulders and a face that rarely showed emotion. His hair was gray at the temples, showing his age, but his eyes were sharp and clear. He had served in the fleet for 30 years. He had fought pirates. He had protected colonies. He had faced death more times than he could count, but he had never done anything quite like this. "Captain," said his first officer, a young woman named Bai, "we are now fully visible to Council sensors. They are attempting to scan us." "Let them scan," Ho said. "They will not find anything we do not want them to find." Bai nodded. She turned back to her station, her fingers moving quickly across the controls. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of machinery. Every crew member knew how important this moment was. They had practiced this arrival many times, but practice was different from the real thing. "Sir," another officer spoke. This was Lieutenant Wu, the weapons officer. He was young, barely 25, but he was the best at his job. "Council defense platforms are powering up. I am detecting targeting systems coming online." "Expected," Ho said. "Do not respond. We are not here to fight." "Yes, sir." The Eternal Dawn moved slowly, carefully. There was no need to rush. Speed would only create more fear, and fear could lead to mistakes. Ho wanted the Council to be impressed, not terrified. Well, maybe a little terrified, but not so much that they would do something stupid. Back in the Council hall, the chaos was spreading. Delegates were shouting over each other. Some were calling for their own fleets to come to their defense. Others were demanding answers from the human representatives. A few had simply collapsed, unable to process what they were seeing. Hai finally found his voice. "Silence," he roared. The sound echoed through the chamber, cutting through the noise. Slowly the delegates quieted. They turned back to look at him, their faces showing fear, anger, confusion. Turned to Admiral. She had not moved during the chaos. She still stood in the same position, her hands clasped behind her back, her face calm. "This is an act of war," said. His voice shook slightly, but he forced himself to remain steady. "Bringing a warship of that size into Council space is a direct threat to every species here." "It is not an act of war," Admiral replied. "It is simply an escort. As I said, we did not come alone. The Eternal Dawn has not powered any weapons. It has made no aggressive moves. It is simply here. Its presence is aggressive. Meth shouted. He had recovered faster than most, his warrior instincts overcoming his fear. A ship that size carries enough firepower to destroy planets. You have brought a planet killer to our doorstep. The Eternal Dawn is capable of many things, Admiral admitted. But it has never been used to harm anyone who did not attack first. It is a defensive vessel. It protects. That is its purpose. Protects? Could not believe what he was hearing. Protects from what? What enemy could possibly require such a ship? Admiral was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer, almost sad. You have been part of galactic society for millions of years, she said. You have spread across thousands of star systems. You have built empires and alliances. You have faced wars and survived. But you have done all of this in safe space, known space. You have never gone beyond the edges of the galaxy. You have never looked into the true darkness between stars. What are you talking about? Meth demanded. We are a young species, Admiral continued. You have told us this many times. We are young and we are curious and we do not know our place, so we did something that no other species has done. We sent ships to the edge of the galaxy. We looked into the void beyond known space. The chamber was completely silent now. Even the most frightened delegates had stopped moving to listen. We found something, Admiral said. Something old, something vast, something that has been waiting in the darkness for longer than life has existed in this galaxy. We do not know what it is. We do not know what it wants, but we know it is coming. And we know that nothing in the current galactic fleet could stop it. This is ridiculous, said. You expect us to believe this story. There is nothing beyond the galaxy. We have studied the void for millions of years. There is nothing there. You studied from a distance, Admiral said. We went there. She raised her hand again, touching the device in her ear. Captain Ho, please share the recording. The holographic display in the center of the chamber changed. The image of the Eternal Dawn disappeared. In its place, a new image appeared. It was dark at first, showing only empty space. Then something began to move in the darkness. The delegates watched as shapes emerged from the void. They were not ships in any recognizable sense. They were organic, writhing, twisted things that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They moved in ways that should have been impossible, bending space around themselves as they traveled. The recording had no sound, but several delegates made sounds of their own. Gasps, whimpers. One delegate began to cry. This recording was taken by the exploration vessel Brave Light, Admiral said. The ship was destroyed 3 minutes after this footage was captured. All 50 crew members were lost. They gave their lives so that we could bring this warning back. The image changed again, showing a different angle. The scale became clear. The twisted shapes were not small creatures. They were massive, each 1 kilometer across. There were hundreds of them, maybe thousands. And behind them, in the deeper darkness, something even larger was moving. We call them the Hollow, Admiral said, because that is what they leave behind. Hollow worlds, empty systems, they consume everything. Life, matter, energy, everything. The recording ended. The display went dark. Silence filled the chamber. It was a different kind of silence than before. This was not the silence of shock or fear. This was the silence of people realizing that everything they knew was about to change. Hai lowered himself back into his chair. His 4 eyes were wide. His gray skin had become pale. How long? He asked. His voice was barely a whisper. How long until they reach us? We do not know exactly, Admiral said. Our best estimates say between 100 and 200 years. It depends on how fast they move once they enter the galaxy proper. 100 years, Meth repeated. He too had changed. His anger was gone, replaced by something much smaller, something that looked like despair. 100 years is nothing. We cannot prepare for something like that in 100 years. We can try, Admiral said. That is why we built the Titan-class ships. That is why we have been expanding so quickly. That is why we sent ships through your restricted space. We were not trying to violate your laws. We were mapping potential defensive positions. We were preparing." Ambassador stepped forward. Her voice was gentle, understanding. "We did not share this information before because we did not think you would believe us," she said. "We thought you would call us liars or fools. We thought you would ignore our warnings. But now you have seen the recording. Now you have seen the eternal dawn. Now you know that we are serious." "Why build such a ship in secret?" asked. "Why not tell the Council we have resources, we have technology, we could have helped?" "Could you have?" Admiral asked. The question hung in the air. Did not answer. He knew the truth. If humans had come to the Council 40 years ago with stories of monsters in the darkness, they would have been laughed at. They would have been dismissed as foolish children with overactive imaginations. The Council would not have helped. The Council would have done nothing. "We did not have the luxury of time," Admiral continued. "We could not wait for the Council to believe us. We could not wait for politics and debates and committees. We had to act. So we did." "How many ships do you have?" Meth asked. "How many of these Titan-class vessels?" "The Eternal Dawn was our first. It took us 15 years to build. We now have 12 operational Titan-class ships. Another 8 are under construction. By the time the Hollow arrive, we hope to have at least 50. 50? The number echoed through the chamber. 50 ships, each one 12 kilometers long. Each one carrying enough firepower to destroy fleets. Each one built by a species that had been considered primitive just 4 decades ago. "How?" asked. "How is this possible? Your species should not have the capability to build such things. Your technology was so limited when we found you." Admiral smiled. It was a sad smile, tired and heavy with years of hidden burden. "We are very good at learning," she said. "And we are very good at being afraid. Fear makes us work harder. Fear makes us find solutions that should not exist. You gave us technology when you made contact with us. We took that technology and improved it. We found ways to make things bigger, faster, stronger. We did not ask permission. We did not follow your rules. We simply built what we needed to survive." "And you kept this hidden from everyone," said. "It was not a question." "We kept it hidden because we knew how you would react. We knew you would see us as a threat. We knew you would try to stop us, and we could not allow that. The galaxy needs these ships. The galaxy needs us." On the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, Captain Ho watched the conversation through the sensors. He could see the council hall floating in the void, so small compared to his ship. He could see the defense platforms that had powered up around it, their weapons trained on his vessel. They were like insects threatening a giant. "Captain," Lieutenant Wu said, "several council member species are sending distress signals. They are calling for their fleets." "Let them call," Ho said. "Their fleets will take days to arrive. By then this will be over." "Do you think they will believe us, sir?" Bai asked. "Do you think they will accept what we have shown them?" Ho was quiet for a long moment. He had asked himself the same question many times. He had seen the recordings of the Hollow. He had nightmares about what was coming, and he knew that nothing the Council had could stop it. "They will believe us," he finally said, "because they have no choice. They have seen the evidence. They have seen this ship. They know we are not bluffing. And if they decide we are the bigger threat." Ho turned to look at his first officer. His face was calm, but his eyes showed something deep and painful. "Then we will do what we must," he said. "We will protect humanity, and we will protect the galaxy whether the galaxy wants our protection or not. That is our duty. That is why we are here." The Eternal Dawn hung in the darkness, its massive form blocking out the stars. Inside, thousands of crew members worked at their stations, ready for whatever came next. They were humanity's answer to the coming darkness. They were the first line of defense against an enemy that no one else even knew existed. And in the council hall below, the representatives of 500 worlds began to understand that everything had changed. The young species they had dismissed as primitive was now their only hope. The galaxy would never be the same. The silence in the council hall lasted for what felt like hours. In reality, it was only a few minutes, but those minutes stretched into eternity. Delegates sat frozen in their seats. Their eyes moved between the dark display where the recording had played and the two human women standing calmly on the speaking platform. Hai was the first to speak. His voice cracked slightly, showing his age in a way it never had before. "We need to verify this recording," he said. "We need our scientists to examine it, to confirm it is real." "Of course," Admiral said. "We expected nothing less. We will share all of our data with your science teams. Every recording, every sensor reading, every piece of information we have gathered. We want you to verify everything. We need you to believe us." Meth stood slowly. His 6 arms hung at his sides, no longer raised in anger or threat. He looked smaller now, somehow. The warrior who had faced countless battles suddenly looked like an old man tired of fighting. "If this threat is real," he said, "why did you not come to us sooner? Even if you thought we would not believe you, you should have tried. We deserve to know." Ambassador stepped forward. Her eyes were soft with understanding. "You are right," she said. "You did deserve to know, and we should have tried harder to tell you, but please understand our position. When we first discovered the Hollow, we were still a young species. We had been part of galactic society for only 10 years. We had no power. We had no influence. We had no credibility." She paused, letting her words settle. "When we tried to share our concerns through diplomatic channels, we were told to wait. We filed reports that were never read. We requested meetings that were never scheduled. Our warnings were treated as the fears of a primitive species that did not understand the galaxy. So we stopped asking for permission. We started preparing on our own." "That is not an excuse," said, but his voice lacked conviction. "No," agreed. "It is not an excuse. It is an explanation. We made choices. Some of those choices were wrong, but we did what we thought was necessary to protect our people and our galaxy." A new voice spoke from the crowd of delegates. It belonged to Elder, one of the oldest members of the council. Species was ancient, predating most others in the chamber by millions of years. His body was withered and frail, supported by a floating chair that moved with his thoughts. But his mind was still sharp, still powerful. "I remember the last great threat," said. His voice was thin and reedy, but it carried across the silent chamber. "The War of Shadows," they called it. A species from beyond our borders came to take our worlds. They were strong. They were hungry. They killed billions before we stopped them. The chamber grew even quieter. The War of Shadows was ancient history, something studied in schools but never discussed openly. It was a reminder of darker times. "We won that war," continued, "but only barely. We almost lost everything. And after we won, we grew comfortable. We grew soft. We told ourselves that nothing so terrible could ever happen again. We stopped looking outward. We stopped preparing." He turned his floating chair to face Admiral directly. His ancient eyes studied her with an intensity that made even the human Admiral shift slightly. "You have shown us something today," said. "You have shown us that we were foolish. You have shown us that danger still exists, even after all these years of peace. And you have shown us that while we were sleeping, your species was working." Elder interrupted. "Surely you are not suggesting we simply accept their claims without—" "I am suggesting," said firmly, "that we listen. I am suggesting that we look at the evidence they have offered. I am suggesting that we consider the possibility that these humans, these young and primitive humans, have done what we could not. They have prepared for a war that we did not even know was coming." The elder turned back to face the full council. "I have seen the ship they brought. I have seen its size. I have felt its presence. No species builds such a thing without reason. No species spends the resources and time to create a weapon of that scale unless they truly believe they need it. The humans are many things, but they are not foolish. They would not waste their efforts on a false threat." Admiral bowed her head slightly in respect. "Thank you, Elder. Your words mean more than you know." "Do not thank me yet," replied. "I believe your threat is real, but I also believe you have made many mistakes. You have hidden things from us. You have violated our laws. You have built weapons that could destroy us all. These things cannot be forgotten simply because you claim to be our protectors." "We are not asking you to forget," Admiral said. "We are asking you to forgive, and more importantly, we are asking you to help." "Help?" Meth asked. "Help how? You have clearly surpassed us in military technology. What could we possibly offer?" "Resources," Admiral said. "Workers, scientists, raw materials. Building the Titan-class ships has drained our economy. Our people have sacrificed everything to create this fleet. They have worked themselves to exhaustion. They have given up luxuries and comforts. They have pushed themselves beyond their limits." She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of delegates from dozens of different species. "We cannot continue alone," she continued. "We need the galaxy to stand with us. We need every species to contribute what they can. We need factories on 1,000 worlds building parts. We need scientists from every field working on new technologies. We need soldiers from every species training together. We need unity." "You ask us to give up our sovereignty," said. "You ask us to place our resources under your control." "No," Ambassador said quickly. "We ask you to work with us, not under us. We are not trying to rule the galaxy. We are trying to save it. There is a difference." "Is there?" Meth asked. His voice was suspicious but also curious. "Power is power. Those who control the weapons control everything." Admiral sighed. It was a small sound, barely audible, but it showed her exhaustion. "I understand your fear," she said. "If I were in your position, I would feel the same way. A young species arrives with weapons beyond anything you have seen, claims there is a great threat coming, and asks for your help. It sounds like the beginning of a conquest, not a partnership." She reached into her uniform and pulled out a small device. It was simple, just a metal cylinder with a single button. "This is a command override," she said. "It connects directly to the Eternal Dawn's central computer. With this device, I can give any order. I can fire weapons. I can activate shields. I can even destroy the ship if necessary." She held the device out toward High. "I am giving this to you," she said. The chamber erupted in murmurs. Delegates whispered to each other in disbelief. Even Ambassador looked surprised, her eyes widening at the Admiral's action. Admiral said quietly, "What are you doing?" "I am proving that we can be trusted," replied. She kept her eyes on. "Take it, High. If at any point you believe we are a threat, use it. The Eternal Dawn will follow your commands. You will have control of the most powerful weapon in the galaxy." Stared at the device. His 4 eyes blinked slowly, processing what was happening. "This is a trick," he said. "You would not give such power to a stranger." "It is not a trick," said. "And you are not a stranger. You are the leader of the Galactic Council. You represent hundreds of species. You have a responsibility to protect them. I am giving you the means to do so, even if that means protecting them from us." She stepped closer, climbing the steps of the raised platform until she stood directly in front of. She placed the device in his hand, closing his fingers around it. "Trust must begin somewhere," she said. "Let it begin here." Looked down at the device in his hand. It was warm from her touch. It was small, simple, unimpressive, but it represented more power than he had ever held before. "Why?" he asked. "Why would you take this risk?" "Because the alternative is worse," said. "If we cannot learn to trust each other, we will fail. The Hollow will come and we will be divided, suspicious, unable to work together. They will destroy us one by one. Every species, every world, every life. All of it gone because we could not overcome our fear of each other." She stepped back, returning to the speaking platform. "I do not want that future," she said. "I want a future where my children can grow up in a galaxy full of life and wonder. I want a future where the species we have met become our friends, not our enemies. I want a future where the name human is remembered as a species that helped save everyone, not as a species that conquered through fear." Her voice broke slightly on the last words. She paused, taking a breath to steady herself. "We are not perfect," she continued. "We make mistakes. We are stubborn and proud and sometimes foolish, but we are also brave. We are also kind. We are also willing to die for what we believe in. And what we believe in is survival, not just for us, for everyone." The chamber was silent again, but it was a different silence. It was the silence of people thinking, considering, weighing words against actions and promises against fears. Elder broke the silence. "I believe her," he said simply. Meth shifted uncomfortably, Elder with respect. "I have lived for 3,000 years," interrupted. "I have met countless species. I have seen liars and tyrants and monsters wearing kind faces. I know what deception looks like. This is not deception. This is desperation. This is a species facing something terrible and reaching out for help, and I believe we should help them." He turned to address the full council once more. "I propose a temporary alliance. We will share resources and knowledge with the humans. We will help them build their fleet. And we will prepare together for whatever is coming. If the threat is real, we will be ready. If the threat is false, we will have lost nothing but time. But if the threat is real and we do nothing, we will lose everything." Looked at the device in his hand one more time. Then he looked at Admiral, standing calm and patient on the platform below. "Very well," he said. "We will verify your evidence. We will examine your claims, and if we find them to be true, we will discuss this alliance." It was not a complete victory. It was not the immediate help that humanity needed, but it was a beginning. Admiral bowed her head. "Thank you, High, that is all we ask." Above them, beyond the crystal walls of the council hall, the eternal dawn waited in the darkness. Its massive form was still and silent, a giant holding its breath. Inside, Captain Ho allowed himself a small smile. The first step had been taken. The galaxy was beginning to wake up. Now the real work could begin. 3 days passed after the meeting in the council hall. 3 days of tension and uncertainty. 3 days of scientists from 100 different species studying the recordings that humanity had provided. 3 days of debates and arguments and fear. Captain Ho had not slept much during those 3 days. He spent most of his time on the bridge, watching the council hall through the sensors, waiting for any sign of what would happen next. His crew rotated in shifts, but he refused to leave. This was too important. "Captain," First Officer Bai said softly. She approached his command chair with a cup of hot tea. "You need to rest. The Admiral would not want you to collapse from exhaustion." Ho took the tea with a grateful nod. "I will rest when this is over. Until then, I need to be here." Bai did not argue. She understood. They all understood. This moment would determine the future of not just humanity but the entire galaxy. Rest could wait. On the council hall, the mood had changed significantly. The initial shock and fear had faded, replaced by something more complex. Some delegates had become angry, feeling betrayed by humanity's secrets. Others had become hopeful, seeing the human fleet as a solution to problems they had not known existed. And some had become thoughtful, considering what this meant for the balance of power in the galaxy. Hai sat in his private chambers, staring at the command device that Admiral had given him. He had tested it carefully, having his technicians examine it for tricks or traps. They had found none. The device was exactly what the Admiral had claimed. It was a master key to the most powerful warship ever built. A knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. "Enter," he said. The door opened and a small delegation walked in. There was Meth, his scales reflecting the dim light. There was Elder in his floating chair. And there was a third figure someone had not expected. Ambassador said, "I did not summon you." "I asked to be included," said. I believe what I have to share will be relevant to your discussions." Considered for a moment, then nodded. "Very well, what news do you bring?" Stepped forward. In her hands she carried a data tablet. "Our scientists have finished their analysis of your recordings," she said. "They have also completed their scans of the Eternal Dawn, with Captain Ho's permission. I wanted to share the results with you personally." And Meth asked. His voice was sharp, impatient. "The recordings are genuine," said. "Our experts could find no signs of manipulation or fabrication. The entities you call the Hollow are real. They were recorded at the edge of the galaxy, exactly where the humans claimed." Closed his 4 eyes. He had hoped, somewhere in the back of his mind, that the recordings would be proven false. He had hoped that this was all some elaborate trick, some scheme by the humans to gain power. That hope was now gone. "And the ship?" he asked. "The Eternal Dawn is also exactly what the humans claimed," continued. "It is 12 kilometers long. It carries weapons that our scientists cannot fully understand. Its shields are stronger than anything we have ever developed. And its power source—" She paused, looking down at her tablet. "Its power source appears to be a contained star." "A contained star?" Elder leaned forward in his chair. "That is impossible. The energy required to contain stellar matter would be beyond any known technology." "Beyond any known technology," agreed. "But not beyond human technology, apparently. They have found a way to capture and stabilize a small star within the ship's core. It provides nearly unlimited power." The chamber was silent as the delegates processed this information. "How?" Meth demanded. "How did they develop such technology in only 40 years? It took our species 1,000,000 years to achieve faster-than-light travel. How did they advance so quickly?" "I asked Admiral the same question," said. "Her answer was interesting." She set the tablet down and looked at the directly. "She said that humans do not think about limits the same way other species do. When they encounter a problem that seems impossible, they do not accept it as impossible. They ask why it is impossible. They challenge every assumption. They break every rule that does not need to be broken. And sometimes they find solutions that no one else would have imagined." "That is not an answer," said. "No," admitted, "but I believe it is the truth. Humans are different from us. They think differently. They feel differently. They are driven by emotions and instincts that we do not fully understand. When they are afraid, they do not hide. They build weapons. When they are angry, they do not wait. They act. They are unpredictable, chaotic, sometimes dangerous. But they are also capable of things that no other species has achieved." Elder made a sound that might have been a laugh. "You sound like you admire them." "I do," said without hesitation. "I have spent the last 3 days speaking with their crew members. I have learned about their history, their culture, their dreams. They are not perfect. They have made terrible mistakes. They have fought wars among themselves. They have destroyed their own environment. They have hurt each other in countless ways." She paused, her expression softening. "But they have also loved each other. They have created art and music and stories that moved me to tears. They have shown kindness to strangers and mercy to enemies. They have sacrificed everything to protect those they care about. They are capable of great evil, but also of great good. And right now, they are choosing to be good. They are choosing to protect a galaxy that has given them nothing but dismissal and contempt." Stood from his chair. He walked to the window of his chambers, looking out at the darkness where the eternal dawn floated. "I have been up for 200 years," he said quietly. "I have made many decisions in that time. Some were good, some were bad, but I always believed I was acting in the best interest of the galaxy." He turned back to face the others. "I dismissed the humans when they first arrived. I thought they were irrelevant. I thought they would fade away like so many young species before them. I was wrong." He held up the command device. "Admiral gave me this to prove her trust, but I think she also gave it to me as a lesson. She was showing me that power is not about control. Power is about responsibility. She has built weapons that could destroy us all, but she has chosen not to use them for conquest. She has chosen to use them for protection. He placed the device on his desk. I propose we accept the human offer of alliance, fully, without conditions. Meth shifted uncomfortably. Hi, that is a significant decision. We should discuss it further. We have discussed it for 3 days, said. We have examined the evidence. We have questioned the humans. We have analyzed their technology. What more do you need? I need to know that we are not making ourselves slaves to a new power, Meth said. I need to know that by accepting this alliance, we are not simply replacing one threat with another. You cannot know that, Elder said. No alliance comes with guarantees. Every partnership requires trust, and trust requires risk. The old turned to look at Ambassador. Tell your admiral that I support this alliance, he said. Tell her that I will use whatever influence I have to convince the others, and tell her that I hope she proves worthy of the trust we are placing in her. Bowed deeply. I will tell her, Elder, and I believe she will. As if on cue, a communication signal chimed in the chamber. Activated it, and Admiral's face appeared on the display. Hi, she said. I apologize for the interruption, but I have news that cannot wait. What news? His face was serious, but there was something else in her eyes, something that looked like hope. We have received a message from our exploration fleet at the edge of the galaxy. The Hollow have changed course. They are no longer moving directly toward us. Felt his heart skip a beat. What do you mean? Where are they going? We are not sure yet, admitted. But they appear to be moving away from the galaxy toward something else, something our sensors cannot identify. We may have more time than we thought. The relief in the chamber was almost physical. Meth let out a breath he had been holding. Elder closed his eyes in what might have been a prayer. How much more time? Asked. Our estimates are still preliminary, but possibly another 200 years, maybe more. 200 years. It was not forever, but it was enough. Enough time to build more ships, enough time to prepare properly, enough time to become ready. This does not change our situation, continued. The Hollow are still coming. They have simply been delayed. We must use this time wisely. We will, said. He looked around at the others in the chamber, seeing agreement in their faces. We will form this alliance. We will work together, and we will be ready. Admiral smiled. It was the first genuine smile had seen from her. It made her look younger, lighter, almost hopeful. Thank you, Hi. You will not regret this decision. I hope not, replied, for all our sakes. The communication ended. The chamber was quiet once more, but it was a comfortable quiet, a peaceful quiet, the quiet of people who had made a difficult decision and were ready to face whatever came next. On the bridge of the eternal dawn, Captain Ho finally allowed himself to relax. The tension that had been building for 3 days slowly released from his shoulders. He leaned back in his command chair and closed his eyes. It is done, he said softly. They have agreed. First Officer Bai smiled. Then we have succeeded. We have begun, Ho corrected. The real work is still ahead, but at least now we will not be alone. He opened his eyes and looked out at the stars beyond the bridge windows. Somewhere out there, in the darkness between galaxies, the Hollow were waiting. They were ancient and vast and terrible. They were coming to consume everything. But now, for the first time, the galaxy would be ready to meet them. Together, 1 year had passed since the meeting at the council hall. 1 year of change, of growth, of preparation. The galaxy was no longer the same place it had been. It was better. It was stronger. It was united in a way it had never been before. Admiral stood on the observation deck of the Eternal Dawn, looking out at the scene before her. Ships from 100 different species filled the space around the council hall. Massive construction platforms floated nearby, building new vessels at a speed that would have seemed impossible just 12 months ago. Workers from across the galaxy moved through the vacuum in sealed suits, welding and connecting and creating. The first joint shipyard was complete. The second and third were nearly finished. By the end of the year, there would be 10 more, and from those shipyards, a new fleet was being born. "It is beautiful, is it not?" Ambassador said. She had joined on the observation deck, 2 cups of tea in her hands. She offered one to the admiral. Took it with a grateful smile. "It is. I never thought I would see anything like this. Species that have been rivals for thousands of years working side by side. It is like a dream." "A dream that you made possible," said. "No," shook her head. "A dream that we all made possible. I was just the one who spoke the words. The real heroes are the workers out there, the scientists in the labs, the diplomats like you who kept everything from falling apart." Laughed softly. "You are too modest, but I suppose that is one of your better qualities." They stood in comfortable silence for a while, watching the construction continue. The new ships being built were not quite as large as the Titan-class vessels, but they were still impressive. They incorporated technology from dozens of different species, combining the best features of each: human power cores, council shield generators, warrior-cast weapons systems, elder navigation computers. Each ship was a symbol of unity, a proof that cooperation was possible. "Have you heard the latest news?" asked after a while. "Which news? There is so much happening I can barely keep track." The Hollow said, "Our scouts have sent back new information." Turned to face her. What did they find? "The Hollow are definitely moving away from the galaxy. They appear to be heading towards something in the deep void, something our sensors still cannot identify. Our scientists believe it might be another galaxy, one that is closer to them than ours." "So they chose an easier target," said quietly. "It appears so, which means we have more time, perhaps much more time. The latest estimates suggest they may not return to our direction for at least 500 years. 500 years. It was almost unimaginable. 500 years of preparation. 500 years of building and training and advancing. By the time the Hollow finally arrived, the galaxy would be ready." "That is good news," said. "Very good news." "There is more," continued. "The Council has approved a new initiative. They want to send exploration ships to follow the Hollow, to study them from a distance, to learn their weaknesses." "That is dangerous." "Yes, but knowledge is worth the risk. If we understand them better, we can fight them better." Nodded slowly. It made sense. Fear came from the unknown. By learning about the Hollow, they could reduce that fear. They could turn terror into strategy. "Who will lead the exploration mission?" she asked. Smiled. "They have asked for volunteers. Several species have already offered ships and crews, and there is one human who has specifically requested to be included." "Who?" "Captain Ho." Blinked in surprise. "Ho, but he is the commander of the Eternal Dawn. He is one of our best. He says that is exactly why he should go. He has experience. He has skill. And he believes he owes it to the crew of the Brave Light to finish what they started." The Brave Light, the exploration vessel that had first discovered the Hollow, the ship that had been destroyed so that others could learn the truth. 50 crew members had died on that ship, including its captain, a young woman named Bora who had been one of students. "I understand," said softly. "Tell the Council I approve his request, but also tell them I expect him to come back alive." "I will." A new ship emerged from hyperspace nearby, drawing their attention. It was a Council medical vessel, bringing supplies and doctors to support the growing workforce. Behind it came a human cargo ship, loaded with raw materials from the outer colonies. Then came a pair of patrol vessels from the warrior species, providing security for the construction zone. Ships arriving, ships departing, ships being built. The sky was full of activity, full of life, full of purpose. "You know," said thoughtfully, "some of the Council members have started calling this the New Age. They say it began the day the Eternal Dawn arrived. The day humanity showed the galaxy what was possible. I have heard that said. I am not sure how I feel about it. How do you feel? Was quiet for a long moment. She thought about everything that had happened, the years of secret building, the fear and uncertainty, the moment she had given the command device to High, trusting a stranger with the power to destroy everything she had worked for. I feel tired, she finally said, and relieved, and hopeful. I feel like we have taken the first steps on a very long journey and the road ahead is still uncertain. But I also feel like we are no longer walking alone. That is a good way to feel, said. Below them in the heart of the construction zone, a new ship was being completed. It was smaller than the others, sleeker, faster. It was designed for exploration, for pushing into the unknown. Its name was painted on the hull in fresh white letters, Brave Light II. Captain Ho would command it. He would take a crew of the best and from a dozen different species. He would follow the hollow into the darkness, learning their secrets, mapping their movements. And when he returned, the galaxy would be that much more ready for what was coming. In the council hall, High sat in his chambers. The command device that Admiral had given him still rested on his desk, untouched. He had never used it. He had never needed to. Trust, he had learned, was a powerful thing. It could build bridges between enemies. It could heal wounds that had festered for generations. It could turn fear into cooperation and suspicion into partnership. He had doubted the humans at first. He had been afraid of them, suspicious of their motives, uncertain of their intentions. But they had proven themselves. Every promise they had made, they had kept. Every resource they had offered, they had delivered. They had shared their technology without conditions. They had opened their secrets without hesitation. They had become the partners they had promised to be. And in return, the galaxy had become something new, something stronger, something better. Looked out his window at the construction zone beyond. He could see the eternal dawn still floating there, watching over everything like a guardian. He could see the new ships being built, the workers moving between them, the lights of progress shining in the darkness. 1 year ago, he had been prepared to punish humanity for minor violations. Now, he was working with them to save the galaxy. Perhaps, he said quietly to himself, the young have much to teach the old after all. On the observation deck of the Eternal Dawn, Admiral finished her tea and set the empty cup aside. The construction continued before her, endless and impressive. The galaxy was changing, and she was proud to be part of that change. Ambassador, she said, I want to thank you. Thank me for what? For believing in us, for helping us, for being the bridge between our species and the Council when things were difficult. Smiled warmly. You do not need to thank me. I believed in your cause because it was right. I helped you because it was necessary, and I will continue to help you because that is what partners do. Partners, it was a simple word, but it meant everything. Humanity was no longer alone in the darkness. They had partners, allies, friends. The Hollow were still out there, somewhere in the endless void between galaxies. They were ancient and vast and hungry. They would return eventually. They always returned. But when they came, they would not find a divided galaxy full of frightened species hiding behind their borders. They would find a united front, a prepared defense, a fleet of ships built by 100 different worlds, crewed by 1,000 different species, powered by the combined knowledge and determination of everyone who called this galaxy home. They would find the children of Earth standing beside their new family, ready to protect everything they loved. And they would learn, as so many others had learned before them, that humanity was much more than it appeared to be. The first ship of the new fleet was ready. It launched from the shipyard, its engines glowing bright against the darkness. It was followed by another and another and another. A stream of vessels flowing out into the galaxy, spreading hope and strength wherever they went. Admiral watched them go, her heart full of pride. This is just the beginning, she whispered. And somewhere in the darkness, The stars seemed to agree.